Welcome to another episode of the Nebraska Gentleman. Today we have a special guest who I met a couple years ago at an event called How to Wear Your Crown, where female professionals who graduated in high schools around Springfield, Massachusetts, come together for a day instilling life skills and empowerment and advice to young female youth just like them. As a practicing lawyer, she's a chief diversity and inclusion officer in the city of Springfield, specializing in labor, employment law, diversity inclusion, and she's a basketball fan, which we'll get to more later. Today's guest is the lovely Talia. Talia, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Just another day. We're a day closer to Friday and the weekend, so I can't complain. So I'm just going to dive right into it. What inspired you to practice law, and what does your job entail today?
Sure. So, what inspired me to practice law is I honestly just fell in love with being able to speak in the courtroom and represent people and argue my case. And the first time I had ever really seen a lawyer was when I would watch this show called Matlock with my grandfather. It was this show it was in black and white. And it was a show with this big, tall, old white man practicing law and arguing his case. And I was just fascinated by it. And I wasn't really sure if it was something that I could do. And then I saw the movie Malcolm X. And if you remember the movie, there's a scene where Malcolm X says that he wants to be a lawyer, and the teacher tells him to think about something else. And that just stuck with me. And I was just like, oh, no, wait a minute. I will never let somebody tell me I can't do something. So it really just made me want to pursue it. And I pursued it. And here I am today, a lawyer. And so while I am a lawyer, my day-to-day job is actually a chief diversity and inclusion officer at the city of Springfield.
And so, can you tell me more what that entails for those who may not be from Springfield or know too much about being a lawyer?
Yes. So I'm in Springfield, Massachusetts, birthplace of basketball, which probably explains my love for basketball, but that's a different story. But as a chief diversity and inclusion officer, my job is really to make sure that everyone has fair and equal opportunities for jobs with the city of Springfield, and that when they get these jobs, that everyone is treated fairly as well. And so part of that involves recruiting, another part involves retention, doing trainings, getting the word out there about our opportunities to diverse communities that otherwise might not know about it.
All right, sorry about that. So with that, Talia, are there any experiences that really, when you got into this, really surprised you? Because to the layperson, I imagine not many people think that people are treated that unfairly, in the field of employment. So what are some common things that maybe you notice or something that's really surprised you?
Yeah, something that really surprised me is that a few things. The first is probably that somebody could be a self-renowned bigot and could say, I dislike this type of person. But they could also come to work and work alongside those same people with no issues every day. And then you had the opposite where, you may have a person that's very well-meaning, but doesn't understand why they can't touch your hair, or, just does not there's a disconnect somewhere. So it's very interesting. And I never really thought that interpersonal skills and personalities and history would play such a big role in my work, but that's just what it is. I always say it's honestly like being a therapist and a psychologist with a law degree and somebody that gets to argue about psychology rather than sit down and kind of work out the issues.
So for you, Talia, we're living in a time where, because of many reoccurrences of injustice to people that look like you and me, people are starting to be inspired to learn more about the law. Are there any you are noticing people inquiring more about, or any that you think that people like me and you should, and the world should be more aware of in America?
Yes, for people that don't look like you and I would say a lot of those people have approached me and have said, "Oh my God, I can't believe the injustices. What can I do?" Or I don't even know where to begin. And so for those people, and for people like you and I have been encouraging folks on both sides to just start having real conversations, right? So rather than tiptoe around an issue, ask questions. Ask me why you can't touch my hair. Um, Ask what it means when I say to I don't know, my stepson that he smells like outside. Like, ask these questions about my culture so that you can learn my culture in the same way that I can learn your culture. And then for Black and brown folks, I would say if we have never done it before, now is the time to start learning our history so that we can definitely figure out where our ancestors came from and then how we can keep the momentum going. Because if you have not figured it out yet, we are absolutely on the brink of a civil rights movement at this point, I would say. And so I think it's time for all of us to figure out what it is that we're going to be doing in that civil rights movement. And I think the best way to figure out that roadmap is, again, going back to the history. The second thing is real change, I think, starts at the local level. And so I think you have got to get out there and vote. You have got to get out there and start paying attention to what your elected officials are doing. Not just day to day, not just what they sit on Facebook and scream about when it's election time, but what their policies and procedures have been, what they have contributed to the community day in and day out off an election year, not just around election time. I think that's true. That's truly important. And get involved with local politics. Hold your elected officials to the carpet. You elected them. If you have an issue, raise it with them, raise it with their office, reach out to them, communicate with them. But you have to get involved some way, shape, or form.
And I like that reminder you give, not just during the political year, but outside of those years too. When you say we're on the brink of a civil rights movement, what are your thoughts, especially being a lawyer during this time, to be a part of what looks like is coming?
For one thing, honestly, I am personally so proud to be a lawyer because you have to remember that our ancestors came to this country shackled and on the bottom of boats. And for those of them that they did not think were worthy or healthy, were dropped off on islands or just tossed over into the sea. And so we have come from being enslaved mentally, physically, and emotionally to fighting for our freedom, fighting for equal rights. And now, my God, we are able to become lawyers, doctors, and judges just like everybody else. And so I thank God that that I took on that opportunity. And I would say for everyone else, when I'm talking about we're on the brink of a civil rights movement, the last real push for equality for Black people was in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But as a lawyer, I have seen that even though that was a law that required that we get equal treatment, we as Black people, again, get equal treatment, we still haven't for the last 50 something years, right? And so now is the time to take a second look at those laws and to take a second look at how our society has been operating and make some real systemic changes. Some of that is still within the civil rights laws, like the 1964 Act, but other changes are also that I think people are really talking about, which is serious, is criminal justice reform. That's something that has been talked about for 100 years and nobody's done anything about. Police reform, taking a look at our nonviolent crimes and how we are enforcing those laws. Are we still locking up people for marijuana? Because, I mean, come on. Why are we still locking up people for marijuana? Things like that. That's what I mean by the civil rights movement. We are definitely on the brink of some very serious changes within this country. And I would suspect that within the next 2 to 5 years, by God's grace, this country is going to look very different.
Yeah, and Talia, I would also say we're blessed to have a model like you that is in this field. And unfortunately, like you said, there are still, that 1964 Civil Rights Act, there are still things that aren't being shown to what it was supposed to be. And I'd like to, transition it to focus on you in your career. Are there any experiences that you faced that you felt you were treated differently because you are a Black woman?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Um, I have certainly been in rooms where, like, for example, I'll show up to court and I'll have a clerk say to me, "Oh, you have to wait for your lawyer outside." No, ma'am, I am the lawyer. Um, or I have repeatedly had the same court staff ask me, "Oh, are you the intern?" No, ma'am, I am the attorney. Um, I have been in court where I have been defending a very rich, powerful white man, but the judge felt the need to speak directly to my client rather than to speak to me, which is completely inappropriate. And so, yes, I absolutely have. And and I have noticed if my white counterparts make the same legal argument, it's received in a different manner than if I make it. I'm told to calm down. Why can't I be passionate about my client, about my case? Why can't I be zealously representing my client, which is the oath that I took when I became a lawyer? So I absolutely have, and you see it, and not only do you see it, but sometimes you see it in the decisions that you get. Sometimes you even see it when you're working at a place in the assignments that you get. If there's a problem with a Black person, you're expected to go resolve it. But if there's a problem with a white person, they're not necessarily calling you in. And so, yes, I've absolutely seen it. But, I think the way that you get around it is you have to know yourself and stand up for yourself. And you have to say, "No, ma'am, there's no lawyer coming. I am the lawyer." Or you have to, correct people. You're not going to call me in when there's a Black person that's a problem. You're going to call me in anytime there's a problem, if that's my job.
Yeah, but Talia, I imagine that did not come easy, being able to have that voice right away. And if it did, I commend the heck out of you. But unfortunately, because you've had to deal with this so many times, I imagine that's what really helped you to really vocalize and speak up for yourself even more. But for somebody new in this that looks like you, what advice would you give them, and how do you take care of yourself outside the courtroom?
Sure. So what I would say is, I'm not going to pretend. I passed the bar at age 25. It's tough to be young and to be a lawyer, and you are thrown into a completely different realm than, unless your parents or your family is lawyer, you've never really been in that environment before. And so, you do have to do a lot of self-development. I read a lot of self-help books. And one other thing that I think is absolutely crucial is you have to tap into your own inner confidence, tap into your, whatever it is that you believe in. For me, the further I have gotten in my career, the more I have needed God. And I cannot get around that. And it may not be politically correct to say, but I'm telling you, as a lawyer, there will be some hard days where only prayer will get you through those days, because nothing else is going to get you through those days, or is going to get that decision that you need, or is going to get, things that you need to happen in life. So definitely prayer. And then, as you hit the nail on the head, which is take care of yourself. Working out has definitely become like my therapy. Playing basketball. Sometimes you have to, being a lawyer can make you very square and make you very hardened. It's like you're always feeling like you're on the defense, or you're always needing to argue, because that's your job. That's what you're doing all day.
So how do you turn that off?
How do you turn that off? I think you need a good partner in your life that'll remind you to turn it off, which I have. And I love him. And he will quickly remind me, like, "You're not at work. Stop lawyering me." So I think that's important. And I also think you have to do things that get your mind out of it. So spend time with your friends, go shopping. For me, playing basketball is one of those things that like I love to do because it just takes me away from work. It doesn't feel like work.
So, Talia, you have a love for basketball. I'd like to just fire away some questions. What your favorite team, who your favorite team is, what your forte on the court is, and how you've been able to deal with basketball being away now during this quarantine.
So this, so in college, I was in a long distance relationship. And basketball being away for this quarantine feels like I'm in a long distance relationship. It feels like the love of my life is somewhere else and may not be coming back soon. And so, yeah, it's been difficult, but I've been watching the ESPN 30 for 30s that have been going on. Although I didn't really care for the Michael Jordan one. That's a different story.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that then later.
Yeah. But definitely watching ESPN 30 for 30, watching old games. Yeah, this is how I've been getting through the quarantine. So my favorite team is either the Celtics or the Golden State Warriors. I really like Steph Curry. I really like how he plays. And I really, really like Jason Tatum a lot. I think the Celtics, we're almost there. We got to do something to get us there.
All about the Bulls. All about the Bulls.
The Bulls, I mean.
Not right now. Not right now. I get it, but.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you know.
You have the floor. Yeah. I know my place. I know my place.
But yeah, I mean, I love basketball. I do. I've been playing since I was 5. I have been the same height since 7th grade. So I'm 5'8". I'm really like very close to 5'9". I've been the same height since the same height since 7th grade. So when I started playing, I was a center because I was bigger than everyone. And then by the time we got to high school, I was a forward. And so at this point, I really can play all 5 positions. And I don't mind playing all 5 positions. I don't mind playing with guys, girls, NBA players. I don't care. I'll play.
So you're saying you're LeBron on the court?
I try to be.
You're 5'8", but you play a little bit bigger than that. I got you.
I do.
So you played throughout college and high school then too?
So I played in high school, and then I did not play in college, which I regret not doing.
Probably would have got that WNBA contract, so probably didn't want to make the other high school classmates feel too bad about themselves. So I get it. You sacrificed your playing time for the betterment of being a lawyer. Exactly. Right. Exactly. And speaking of basketball, you mentioned this earlier, Springfield being the home of basketball.
Yes.
Can you describe to us who are not from Springfield, Massachusetts, what that was like growing up and still living there today?
Yeah. So, basketball in Springfield is literally like, I don't know, it's as common as dirt in any American city. Like, if you don't play basketball in Springfield, it is a shock that you don't at least just get out on the court and shoot around a little bit, something. Not to say you've got to, I think when you get to the 7th or 8th grade or like high school, people start to taper off and they're doing other things because they're not making teams or they're getting cut or things of that nature. But I mean, basketball is just, people in Springfield live and breathe basketball. And boys and girls, let me say. And I come from a basketball family. So I have an older cousin I have 2 older cousins who are quite the attractive young men and were also stellar athletes. And so they just were very popular in Springfield. And so naturally I needed to step into those shoes, although I'm the better player, but we'll get to that in a second.
Hey, you have the floor whenever you want to brag about it. That's okay. But Talia, I'd be curious now with women who really want to step in your shoes and do this amazing career that you are in. What's advice you would give them if their goal is to be, practicing lawyer in the same arenas as you are? And then also, what is your career goal?
So my advice would be you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so if you
Beautiful basketball analogy.
basketball analogy, and honestly, basketball has taught me so much about life that it's just necessary to reference. Like I mentioned, I started playing when I was 5, and I have 2 older cousins that were a lot better than me and obviously bigger than me. And I would play against them, and they would elbow me and they'd back me down into the post, and they held no mercy. But what that taught me was to stand up for myself and to keep playing strong against whatever competitor, male, female, whatever. So I've never been of the mindset that, oh, that's not for me because I'm a girl. No, ma'am. And you shouldn't have that mindset about anything. Oh, that's not for me because I'm Black. Oh, that's not for me because I have natural hair. Oh, that's not for me because I'm a girl. You're doubting yourself to begin with. And so again, I'll go back to you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. The second thing, which is my mantra in life, is don't let other people believe in you more than you believe in you. And so if somebody gives you an opportunity, you better take it. So oftentimes people will say to me, well, I got into law school, but I don't know if I can really do it. Okay, you got in, you need to take it. You got in because somebody thought you could do it. So why not try? Why not try?
Yeah, Talia, I think that's a mantra that we can all live by. And for me, that's easy to forget because I'm a perfectionist and question myself all the time. But that's so true. Why, how dare we let somebody believe in us? Or how dare we not believe in ourselves when other people believe in us too? And
Absolutely.
I mean, your mantra, don't let other people believe in you more than you believe in yourself. That's a confidence booster anytime I even think of that. So thank you for sharing that. And you raised a good point. Like sports it's just amazing how influential it could be in other fields. And I appreciate you reminding us about that too. Talia, where can people reach out to you if they want to continue the conversation, if they want to have some great basketball debates, or, reference you or reach out to you to be their lawyer?
Yeah. So if people want to reach out to me, they can follow me on Twitter, which is Talia Talia GEE and then ESQ on Twitter. Or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. I'm not on Facebook, although I need to get on Facebook, but I'm just not. I just can't do it.
Why are you behind? You got everything else. You got Twitter, you got LinkedIn. You're missing the F.
You're right. I was on Facebook when I was in college. See, now I'm dating myself. But so when I was a freshman in college, Facebook had
last year, gotcha.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Facebook had just started, and then it just evolved over time. And then I don't know, people were just posting too many pictures of like their cereal, and I just was not interested. So I just got off.
So you are not on Instagram then?
I am not on Instagram, although I need to get on Instagram as well.
Maybe we'll start that up. We'll start a campaign to get you on both. Talia, thank you for your time and great conversation. I'm thankful that we've, kept in touch since that. And actually, that's one more question I have for you. I'm sorry, I'm throwing in a bonus. This is overtime. Can you tell us more about the event that we met at in 2000, I believe it was 2017, How to Wear Your Crown? Can you tell us, because I believe you are one of the people that helped create that. And if not, you played a big role from what I saw. So please share with me and the people what inspired y'all to make that event and how somebody like myself who's interested in doing that can do that.
Yes. So first, thank you for volunteering, because the event cannot happen without volunteers like yourself. So How to Wear Your Crown is a one-day summit for teenage girls in grades 8 through 12. And basically we come together and we just have conversation, and basically like a party celebrating being a girl all day. And so we have very in-depth and interesting conversations. We make vision board. We have done making a vision board. We have had guest speakers. We have had conversations about things like dating and relationships, navigating social media, all sorts of things. The event was created by 7 women from Springfield, Massachusetts, with wanting to give back to the community, recognizing that oftentimes young girls don't necessarily have an outlet. So oftentimes they're learning from their friends who are just as ignorant as them. Or they may not feel comfortable kind of going to a parent or somebody at school to talk about some of these things, or they may not even be thinking about some of these things, like what safe boundaries in relationships, for example. And so, when I was a kid, oftentimes I would very much so be preached at about sexuality rather than being able to have safe space conversations about what sexuality even is. Or like I said, those boundaries or anything like that. Not talking about heterosexual or homosexual, right? Because that always seems to cloud the conversation. But really, you make the decision on what you want to do, but let's talk about safe boundaries with whomever you're dating. And so we're able to have those kinds of conversations, which is excellent. And we've had some other ones as well, like personal finance, how to get into college, just getting these ideas on these girls' radar so that they can become the next Michelle Obama or, a leader in this country.
And again, it was a great opportunity to be a part of and witness. And because of people like you, you can tell that, these women 10 years from now or so may end up being in the same exact footsteps that you are in today because of the care and, just the understanding and the desire to help out the community. So thank you again for doing that. And thank you, Talia, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.